What's good? It's Woog. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you love music like I do. We are continuing our 2022 Grammy coverage, and we are going category by category, not all the categories, but we are doing several of the categories, including the 4 major categories, as well as a few of the others. So the next stop is Best R&B Album. And this is a category that you would think has been around for decades and decades, but it actually just got its start in 1995. That was the first award handed out in this category. And the first winner was Boyz II Men with that album 2. That's the album with I'll Make Love to You, On Bended Knee. Iconic album, the one with the big 1-2 on the album cover. Probably the most iconic Boyz II Men album. Babyface produced some of the music there. And the other nominees that year were Anita Baker with Rhythm of Love, Tevin Campbell with I'm Ready, Gladys Knight with Just For You, Michelle Indiacello with Plantation Lullabies, and Luther Vandross with Songs. But yeah, Boyz II Men won the first one. The very next year, TLC won with Crazy Sexy Cool. That was the album with Creep, Red Light Special, Digging on You, and of course, Waterfalls. And they had some really good other nominees that year as well. They had Mary J. Blige with My Life, D'Angelo with Brown Sugar, Prince with The Gold Experience, and Barry White with The Icon Is Love. And then the next year, Tony Rich with, remember the song Nobody Knows It But Me? He won with the album Words. And then Erykah Badu won in 98 with 97's Baduism. Lauryn Hill won the year after that with The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. Now, the most wins in this category is actually a two-way tie with 3 wins apiece. Alicia Keys and John Legend both have 3 wins. And 2 other artists are tied with 2 wins. Those 2 artists are TLC and D'Angelo. TLC won with, as I mentioned, Crazy Sexy Cool. And then they also won a few years later with Fan Mail. That's the one with Unpretty and No Scrubs. And then D'Angelo won not with Brown Sugar. As I mentioned, he was nominated in 96 with the 95 album Brown Sugar, but he won with Voodoo and then with his latest album a few years ago, Black Messiah. So 2 artists have 3 wins, Alicia Keys and John Legend, and then TLC and D'Angelo both have 2 wins. Now the most nominations goes to Mary J. Blige. She has 5 nominations in this category and has 1 win. That win came in 2007 with the 2006 album, The Breakthrough, which you would think that she would have won with maybe her 97 album, Share My World, or even with My Life a couple years prior. But no, she didn't win until several years later. Now, this R&B genre has actually kind of been fragmented a little bit to where, you know, they've had splitting awards. Like they had Best Contemporary R&B Album from like 2003 to 2011. So a lot of the wins that were going on in the Best R&B album category were different than Best Contemporary. And it matters big time because if you look at some of the artists and albums that were in the Best Contemporary R&B album category, some of the winners were like iconic ones. Usher's Confessions, Mariah Carey's The Emancipation of Mimi, a couple Beyonce albums, actually 3 Beyonce albums won in the Contemporary R&B category. Those were Dangerously in Love, B-Day, and I Am Sasha Fierce. Usher also won again with Raymond vs. Raymond. Mary J. Blige won in 2009 with Growing Pains. So it's pretty confusing. They tried to make contemporary R&B basically the R&B that has more a hip-hop influence. But if you look at the different albums, like Ashanti's debut in 2002, which was, she won in 2003 with that Ashanti album. Again, they call that contemporary R&B, but you look at some of the, basically there are a lot of contemporary R&B entries that could have very easily been just Best R&B Album and vice versa. There are a lot of winners on the Best R&B Album side that could have very easily been contemporary, like Alicia Keys's The Diary of Alicia Keys, or even before that, Songs in A Minor. I mean, Songs in A Minor had a song that literally took the Old Dirty Bastards Brooklyn Zoo beat. I think the song was I Think I'm Jealous of Your Girlfriend from Songs in A Minor. If that's not hip-hop inspired, what is? Yet it appeared in Best R&B Album and not Contemporary R&B. Well, to make things even more confusing, in 2013, they started a Best Urban Contemporary Album where the first winner was Frank Ocean with Channel Orange, and then Rihanna won it with Unapologetic, and then Pharrell Williams won it with Girl. The Weeknd then won it with Beauty Behind the Madness. So this was supposed to be a more fusion where you have different influences from different genres, but it's still R&B. But again, these ones that I just named off weren't in Best R&B Album category. And then they changed that Best Urban Contemporary Album category, which again didn't start until 2013. They renamed it Best Progressive R&B Album in 2020. So just a couple years ago, they renamed that category, which we'll get into in a future video. But right now, we're going to talk about this year's nominees for Best R&B Album. And this year's nominees are Snoh Aalegra with Temporary Highs. In the Violet Skies, we have Jon Batiste with We Are, Leon Bridges with Gold Digger Sound, H.E.R. with Back of My Mind, and Jazmine Sullivan with Hotels. And, you know, I've actually heard all these albums now, and I'm pretty impressed with this group of nominees. Sometimes you could tell that they basically pick old popular names from like the 90s or even 80s and 70s, and chances are if they release something of note in that year, it'll find itself in the Best R&B Album category. So basically that's what they've started to place in this, you know, non-progressive, non-contemporary category, but only sometimes, because like Bruno Mars with 24K Magic, for instance, won in Best R&B Album, which again, that could have very easily been progressive R&B. It could have been contemporary R&B or whatever the hell they want to call it as a spin-off genre. But yeah, we'll stick to the nominees that they've decided to select here for Best R&B. And I'll tell you that, for instance, Snoh Aalegra, I was very impressed with that album. Jazmine Sullivan has been, you know, Jazmine Sullivan was the #1 Pitchfork Album of the Year, cross-genre. So Jazmine Sullivan's album Hotels is actually one of the most critically acclaimed albums of 2021 from any genre. Jon Batiste, most of y'all will know him from being, you know, the musical director on Stephen Colbert's Late Show, Jon Batiste, and he's been releasing music for the past like decade, but is just starting to get more recognition for his solo and his basically his own recordings. I mean, I remember hearing about him like 8 to 10 years ago. He would be popping up at a lot of different like private parties and stuff because he was like a musical savant coming out of New Orleans with a jazz background, multi-instrumentalist, just one of those people who could wow you. And he was so young too. He was like in his teens, early 20s. I mean, he's still only like in his 30s, I believe. And again, I mean, being musical director for like a late night show, I mean, he is so gifted, talented, and he could sing. I mean, he's got a voice that is a credible R&B style voice to where, you know, when I'm listening to this album, I'm not thinking, okay, this is a very talented multi-instrumentalist, but he's limited on the vocals. No, he could pretty much do it all. And his album, We Are, showcases that. Again, this is by no means a debut album from him. He's been recording music, but again, he's just really starting to get his shine. And he's been nominated a lot in this year's Grammys, including for Album of the Year. Yeah, this We Are album, it's nominated in the major cross-genre Album of the Year category. And then Leon Bridges, obviously, he's pretty much been pegged as a R&B throwback to where he's got, you know, a little of the Sam Cooke style, just that classical R&B vibe, but he's been mixing it up in recent years to where he's starting to sound more contemporary and he's not simply a throwback. By the way, Anderson .Paak a couple years ago with the album Ventura was also nominated in Best R&B Album. How the hell is Anderson .Paak not progressive? I mean, his band, the Free Nationals, literally was nominated in the Best Progressive R&B Album last year. So again, yeah, very confusing. But not only was Jon Batiste's We Are nominated in the major Album of the Year category, but so was H.E.R's Back of My Mind album, which I like that album a lot as well. I was actually surprised that it didn't get more critical love this year. I mean, it is getting some Grammy love, but I thought that the publications would have like ranked it higher among their best albums of 2021, like they did, you know, for Jazmine Sullivan. But yeah, H.E.R, I mean, she's won a couple Grammys in the past. She's had albums nominated in the major Album of the Year category in the past. Jazmine Sullivan, she's been nominated several times in the Grammys for a Grammy as well. 15 total nominations, has yet to win. These last 3 nominations for this year, including Best R&B Performance, Best R&B Song for Pick Up Your Feelings, as well as Best R&B Album right here with Heaux. Yeah, this is her nominations 13, 14, and 15. Again, yet to win a Grammy. I think that this year will be Jazmine Sullivan's first Grammy win. I think that she's actually going to pull it off with this Heaux album. Now, it's really tough to say because you would think, okay, if H.E.R and Jon Batiste are both nominated in the major Album of the Year category, then it should be one of them to win in this R&B category, right? Like if you're the best of all genres, then you should be the best of one particular genre. But I swear, not only do I think that Jazmine Sullivan actually had the best album out of these 5, again, I really like Jon Batiste's album. I really like Snoh Aalegra's album, which has a lot of production from No ID. Very interesting list of producers for that Snoh Aalegra Temporary Highs in the Violet Skies album. But I think that song by song, Jazmine Sullivan's Heaux is the best in this list. It's also a very short album. It's like just over 30 minutes or something. Whereas H.E.R's, I believe, clocks in at over an hour. A pretty long album. And by the way, H.E.R is nominated 8 times this Grammys. And Jon Batiste is actually nominated for 11 Grammys this year, including like Record of the Year and again, Album of the Year in the major category. Now, commercially speaking, this is where these 5 albums topped out on the Billboard 200. Snoh Aalegra's album peaked at 24. Jon Batiste peaked at 86. Leon Bridges peaked at 17. H.E.R peaked at number 6. And then Jazmine Sullivan made it all the way up to number 4. So not only is Jazmine Sullivan's Heaux the most critically acclaimed album out of these 5 nominees, but it also had the most Billboard success. And when you think about how much of an industry push H.E.R seems to have with how prominent she's become, kind of like the go-to popular artist for all kinds of occasions. I mean, she, I believe, played in the intro to this, played like what, America the Beautiful, I think, in last year's Super Bowl. Like, H.E.R is major now. And for Jazmine Sullivan's album to not only be more critically acclaimed, but to also peak higher on the Billboard 200 than H.E.R, yeah, again, I wouldn't be surprised if Jon Batiste or H.E.R win this award, but I'm really going to go with Jazmine Sullivan, and I'm going to hope that the Recording Academy, that they do the right thing here. Again, Jazmine Sullivan has been nominated for more than like a dozen times and has yet to win a Grammy. I think this year is going to change that, and I think that it's going to change in this Best R&B Album category. But yeah, let me know what you think about this year's nominees. Snoh Aalegra, Jon Batiste, Leon Bridges, H.E.R, and Jazmine Sullivan. Are you a fan of any of their music? I was, again, really impressed by this Snoh Aalegra album. Like, she's managed, and her producers managed to kind of have a fresh take to how R&B can sound. I mean, it's really difficult to release an album and make it sound a bit original with your concepts and with your overall vibe. I thought that Snoh Aalegra really pulled that off well, but again, song by song, I thought Jazmine Sullivan had the strongest album. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you love music like I do. I'm Woog. Thanks for tuning in.